From the basket in which it puts the lotion, or else it gets the hose again, it's the IGN Digigods. Here are two great big fat persons, Wade Major and Mark Kaiser.
What a great intro. Corey, which longtime listener sent that one in for us?
That was brought to you by Alexander Berlika.
Thank you, Alexander. Good on you over there in Belarus. Mark, that intro, of course, we're still honoring the memory of James Horner, and that little tidbit is from the main theme of Krull.
You know, I own the soundtrack
I do
to
too.
Krull, and you did too.
Yeah, and I always remember that as the Peter Yates film that I actually worked at the theater when we played that, and I just thought, man, that is one crappy movie. Peter Yates has totally lost it. He is not the man I thought he was. And then, like, 3 months later, The Dresser came out and got a pile of Oscar nominations. And you're like, how could the same guy do Krull and The Dresser in the same year?
And Horner did both.
You did. Yeah, that's right. But there's not much of a score to The Dresser. It's sort of like, yeah.
But you know what?
That's it.
Where you don't put music is just as important as where you put music.
Yeah, but you can't give the composer credit for choosing not to write music. It's like,
yeah, you can.
No, I am a brilliant composer because I saw the importance of silence. Then you can become one of those like twisted, weird, self-absorbed performance artists in New York who goes and just sits on a bench at a museum and that's like your art. No, I'm sorry. No, it's not
disagree.
Happening. Anyway. All right. So.
Yes, sir. What are you doing?
What are we doing? You know, gosh. Seriously, do you think? Let me ask you. Let me ask you this. Do you think that the Dukes of Hazzard now on any subsequent release on DVD is going to come with like a disclaimer or a trigger warning?
It's a weird time.
It's a very.
Look. Here's the thing. Okay, and we never get political on the show, but I'm going to say this anyway. The Confederate flag should not be flown over any government buildings. It should not be displayed in government anything.
No.
However, if the Dukes of Hazzard had Confederate cars, then that's what they need to sell.
Well, but did you read Lou Lumenick's thing from in the New York Post?
Is that the thing about Gone with the Wind or something? Seriously. I mean, honest to God, at a certain point, you just want to slap people. I'm not a fan of Lumenick anyway. I don't have a problem bad mouthing a colleague that I don't know. If it were someone that I knew, I'd say something nice. But seriously, I mean, people just got murdered. And you take the opportunity to basically just badmouth Gone with the Wind and say, well, as long as we're just ripping up our history and we're urinating on anything that has anything to do with the South and slavery and the Confederacy, let's just tear Gone with the Wind out of the books. I mean, it's Gone with the Wind is. I'm not a fan of the film, irrespective of what you think its politics are or any of that stuff. And mind you, they went to great lengths. Selznick went to great lengths to depoliticize that film. People, I don't think, fully realize that. He went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth with the NAACP to make sure that the film met with their approval, that he was not making another Birth of a Nation.
That's not what he wanted. He wanted just to give people an epic love story. He did not want it to be political. He really went out of his way. And I just think it's profoundly ignorant to not understand it's still a film of its time.
It's not about intelligent point making. It's about point scoring.
Yeah,
it's about point scoring on MSNBC or Fox News or whatever. That's all it is.
I'm not a fan of the film. I think it's a big garish mess. I hate it for all the same reasons that I hate Titanic, because it's essentially the same movie.
Thank you.
But that said, without Gone with the Wind, we wouldn't have today's blockbusters. Without Gone with the Wind, you wouldn't have had Dr. Zhivago or Titanic or The English Patient. Without Gone with the Wind, you simply wouldn't have a certain kind of movie marketing. I mean, it's the beginning of a lot of modern movie history, and if you don't understand that, you've shortchanged your understanding of film history and pop culture history. So that being said, anyway, enough with that. But I do wonder if they're going to release the Dukes of Hazzard with some kind of a disclaimer. I think that would be just outrageously weird. It'd just be weird.
I agree.
Anyway. All right, so I'm just going to quickly blow through a few things here. We got a lot of Nickelodeon kid stuff. My daughter watches a lot of Nickelodeon, not necessarily Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but they just keep pumping these things out. And they got some new ones for you if you are an ongoing fan. This is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles New York City Showdown, NYC Showdown. Return to New York, parts 1, 2, and 3. I guess for fans, it's a big deal. Also have The Search for Splinter, which is a two-parter that includes Things Change and The Search for Splinter parts 1 and 2. So 3 episodes, including the two-parter Search for Splinter, which is, they just, I don't know. You got giant turtles and giant rats and the whole lore. It's whatever. And then there's also Pulverizer Power, which is these aren't all the same Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle series. I lose track of which ones were created before which ones. This is a more recent one. This is from 2013, so it's a little bit more of a CGI enhanced Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle series. And then we got a couple of Doras. Dora is getting older, which is kind of creeping me out. Dora's Explorer Girls, our first concert. Dora's kind of becoming a tween and doing a concert with her friends, Emma, Kate, Naya, and Alana. Girl bands with Dora is kind of creeping me out a little bit. The younger Dora is still present in Big Little Movies. This is Dora Saves Fairytale Land. First time this has ever been on DVD. Can you believe it? Dora Saves Fairytale Land. Mark's been waiting for that for years.
Me? Unbelievable.
Been waiting for it for years. But my daughter does watch Bubble Guppies, which the little fish people, little mermaids and mermen, and they're cute songs, man. They're catchy songs. I can't believe I'm saying that. But this is The Puppy and the Ring, and this is a little bit of an. Basically there are a few episodes of Bubble Guppies on here, like all these Nickelodeon things. They kind of throw a few of them on here. This includes the episode The Puppy and the Ring, which is a little unconventional, a little fairy tale-ish. Then Sir Nani and the Nice, Bubble Cadabra, and The Wizard of Australia. So they go through they kind of try to theme them together in a some cogent way. Sharing and Caring is a new Max and Ruby release that has 12 episodes on it, and I enjoy Max and Ruby. Everyone else in my house hates it. My wife just can't stand the voice work, and my daughter doesn't seem to really appreciate it, other than the fact that there are a couple of bunnies. But Ruby, they hate the voice of Ruby, I guess. Ruby, I think Ruby's cute, and I think Max is adorably stupid. And they pretty much do that in every episode, and they learn lessons that I learn a great deal from, even if no one else in my house does. And then also from the Big Little Movies line is Umi Space Heroes of Team Umizoomi, which we just can't stand. It's terrible animation. The stories make no sense, and I'm just mystified by Team Umizoomi. I don't know who created it. I don't understand to what degree it's actually somewhat quasi-Japanese and partly American. It doesn't really make sense to me. I need some help there. So anybody wants to throw me a bone, email us at gods@digigods.com. Explain this Team Umizoomi stuff to me. Otherwise, send us emails and Vox boxes. Gods@digigods.com.
Well done, Wade.
Thank you. All right, Mark.
Yes, sir.
We have a great deal to get to. So
a great deal of what?
We have television. We've got all kinds of fun stuff. So let's do. Let's start off with some television. Let's do the TV. Let's do the TV pile here.
Yes, sir.
Shall we do the TV pile? I'm going to start off and make mention of Killing Jesus, which we have on Blu-ray here. Actually, quite a compelling still that they use for the cover of this thing. Most Jesus movies absolutely drive me bonkers, and this, of course, is by this is the latest in the series of Bill O'Reilly books: Killing Kennedy, Killing Lincoln, Killing Jesus, Killing Patton, all the killing books. Anyway, that he wrote with Martin Dugard. I'm not going to speculate as to who does what with these books. Dugard is a very capable historian. Bill O'Reilly, obviously a big blustery face and television personality. Anyway, but all of these things they reek of television. And Kelsey Grammer, I love him to death. I think he's a wonderful actor, but he just looks totally out of place here. Rufus Sewell also looks out of place. The problem, I think I've seen just about every Jesus movie and Jesus television miniseries ever created, and the ones that work versus the ones that don't work, it's pretty easy to sort of pinpoint what it is. And it ultimately comes down to how hard you're trying. And if you're trying really, really hard to be really biblical, it winds up coming off cheesy. And if your casting isn't right, everybody looks out of place. And if you just don't try too hard, if you just kind of let the thing sort of be what it's going to be, then it doesn't feel sanctimonious and preachy, and it doesn't sort of reek of message movie making. And when Jesus is already a character in the movie, Jesus is not a great protagonist. He just isn't.
He can do anything. He's like Superman.
Yeah.
He can do anything.
Story-wise, drama-wise, problematic protagonist. So that being said, boy, gosh, I just wish Kelsey Grammer hadn't done this. But I mean, for the people who love it, they're going to love it. The people who are going to hate it, they're going to hate it. It's good move for the National Geographic Channel. It's a good-looking Blu-ray, but man, I don't know. It just it's more historical than religious too. That's the thing people should know. This is not like a faith-promoting film, but it's also not a faith-attacking film. It's just very matter of fact, and I think as a result, it's a little bloodless. But there it is.
Wait, speaking of there it is, there's a very important piece of TV history that you need to rent, if not buy. Joan Rivers, who of course died tragically, unnecessarily, at the age of 81. She had a number of TV shows, as we know. She had Fashion Police. She had her late-night talk show. But before all of that, in 1968, she had something called That Show with Joan Rivers. That
was a big deal.
It was a big deal.
That was a big deal.
It was a syndicated daytime talk show on WNBC in New York.
Yeah.
So you can only see it there, and this thing is great. I love this thing. This is from the good folks at Topics. This is a piece of TV history that really you kind of have to own. This is 29 episodes from season 1 of the show. So the way the show worked is each show was themed, and there'd be at least two guests. There'd be an expert in that theme, whether the theme is travel tips or dining out or physical fitness or whatever it might be, nudism they even had. So they have an expert and they have a celebrity. So as an example, they did a show on manners. The expert was, of course, Elizabeth Post. The celebrity was that great champion of manners, Rocky Graziano.
Oh, yeah.
But they had other celebrities you might have heard of. They had Ed Sullivan and Johnny Carson, Barbara Walters, Lily Tomlin, Florence Henderson. This thing is great. And Joan would start the show with a monologue. And, again, at the end of the day, having a female comic have her own show would be a big deal today, let alone in 1968. It was groundbreaking.
Yeah.
So I cannot recommend enough Joan Rivers. That show with
I miss
Joan
her.
Rivers.
I do. She was annoying me for a moment, but did you ever have any interaction with her at E? Did you ever?
Occasionally, I would see her in the elevator.
Really?
Yes.
Did you cop a feel? Cop a feel?
And I did get a friend. I did get a couple friends into the show once.
Did you cop a feel? Just to say you did?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't?
Right?
Who wouldn't?
Yeah.
My office is in the bowels of E. So literally, as I often say, if you walk by my office, you're lost because nobody can find my office. It is so in steerage. I can't even tell you. So one morning, I'm sitting in my office, of course, in the middle of nowhere because no one ever visits me in my office because my office is nowhere. And who walks in? Joan Rivers.
Really?
Down the hall.
Yeah.
And it was like an alien landed because nobody visits me anyway. And nobody can find my office if they wanted to visit me. So for some reason, Joan Rivers is walking right by my office.
Well, there you go.
So she walks by my office. She says, "Hello, E people," and then she walks by. And then I guess she was looking for a conference room that was like down the hall. But it was very strange seeing Joan Rivers walk by my office.
All right, it's more here. This when calls the heart series.
See the way they say it; it's so artistic.
I know.
When calls.
Well, this is from the Janet Oakey. This is from the Janet Oakey novel, which has inspired endless goopy, sloppy, weepy, romantic-y Hallmark Channel movies from this. When Calls the Heart, all of them produced by Michael Landon Jr. This is Heart and Soul. And Lori Loughlin, I kind of forgot that she even existed. She does,
oh, you know what? Back in the day,
ageless. She's ageless.
Delicious.
I know, right?
Back in the day,
totally.
Oh yeah,
Wonderful.
Oh yeah.
Jack Wagner, terrific, always wonderful. Love him too. So yeah, this just maintains the ongoing. It just hits all of those. All those beats that these things keep hitting. It's the same deal over and over. This is from Shout Factory. But, bravo, Lori Loughlin. Glad that she's still around. And, I mean, she's, I looked up her age. I'm not going to say it on the show, but I was like, you've got to be kidding me. There's just no way. She really is. She's lovely. She deserves a better career than she has right now.
I'm lovely.
Yeah.
Season 5 of Workaholics is now on Blu-ray. This is the show, the Comedy Central show that features these guys from the mail-order comedy troupe, and they work at a telemarketing company. They get into all sorts of wacky adventures. It's a little like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where it feels like this weird indie, off-the-reservation type comedy. This one, though, is pretty out there. The Blu-ray's uncensored. There's a lot of stuff that might mildly offend the easily offendable, like when the guys crash a funeral. But there's deleted scenes, there's bloopers. Fans will love that. So there you go, Alcoholics Season 5. Not my favorite show. Sometimes it tries a little too hard to be insane, but people like it.
All
5
right.
seasons.
Yeah.
Speaks for 5 seasons speaks for itself.
Who am I? I would never have greenlit it. That's just me. So, Mark, once upon a time, there was a show called Young Hercules. Young Hercules. Did I mention it was Young Hercules?
Sounds terrible.
It lasted 50 episodes. 50 episodes. And I heard this and I thought, how did I never hear of Young Hercules? 50 episodes. What is this? And this thing was actually, I don't know how I missed the fact that this thing even existed. It's very strange. This is from the late 90s. And I can't remember what I was doing at the time, but anytime. Anyway, you know who starred as Hercules?
Oh, Bobcat Goldthwait.
No.
No. Arnold Schwarzenegger.
No.
Richard Chamberlain. Yeah, very young-looking Ryan Gosling.
It's ridiculous. But, everybody's got to start somewhere. Johnny Depp started on 21 Jump Street, so everybody's got to start somewhere. This thing was actually produced by Sam Raimi and Robert Tappert, who's the genius behind Xena and the other Hercules show, The Legendary Journeys. And somehow they thought that they'd take this former Mickey Mouse Club guy who, all of his cohorts were becoming pop stars at the time, and let's turn him into mythical Hercules. It's not good. It's really pretty terrible. But hey, it's a show, and he's on it, and it's a weird bit of television lore, and I'm sure the curious just won't care. So there you go, 50 episodes of Ryan Gosling as young Hercules. It's very strange. And then we also have the complete series of The Campbells on 12 discs. This is a Western show that I was also completely unfamiliar with. Essentially a doctor trying to, help his family deal with all of the various pitfalls that befall you in the early 19th century. And this is originally a Canadian show. I understand that it aired here at some point. This is 100 episodes. And it's okay. Better than a lot of later American Western stuff. Certainly, not as good as the '60s era stuff. Rifleman and Wild Wild West and Gunsmoke and Bonanza and all that stuff. So it's certainly not in that vein. But I think it's better than Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, or any of that stuff. So. Bravo to the Canadians for, hanging on to their heritage and ours a little bit. This is from Timeless, who is releasing a lot of this really interesting stuff, particularly the Jerry Anderson stuff from the UK. And in this case, this is some cool Canadian stuff. Groovy.
Wait, a couple I got. Back in the day, there was a book series written by... V.C. Andrews. It started with Flowers in the Attic and then went on to a couple of sequels. The second sequel has been made into a movie called If There Be Thorns. And this thing is just horrible. You know, what actually pisses me off about this movie is that it was directed by Nancy Savoca. Remember Nancy Savoca?
I do. She did
True Love, which is a big deal at Sundance that year.
She did True Love, but she also did Dogfight. Dogfight?
Dogfight.
Dogfight with River Phoenix.
That's right.
And Lily Taylor.
And so she's going to be a great little indie director.
Yeah.
Really, now we're talking late 80s, early 90s, and now she's doing this crap. Anyway, it continues the story of the Dollenganger family from Andrews' 2 novels. There's The Flowers in the Attic, which was a big deal at the time, and the sequel, Petals on the Wind. So this is the sequel of There Be Thorns is with Heather Graham. And I got to say, I'm glad Nancy Savoca's getting work, but I just think this thing is just ridiculous. You know, they escape from the attic, and it, Petals on the Wind picked up after the escape from the attic, and then If There Be Thorns, continues the story. There's actually another sequel, which I assume they'll make into a movie too, called Seeds of Yesterday. But until then, you got this piece of crap. This really has nothing going for it. I'm just really surprised that it's so cheesy. But what are you going to say? Nancy Savoca got work. Also, we have Street Outlaws. Now, I'm not a big fan of illegal street racing. In fact, I think all these people who street race illegally should die. But Discovery has done a show about them, and they go out after midnight, and they hit these streets in these wide streets in these rural areas. Sometimes they're empty streets in more citified areas, but still. You get a lot of douchebags who do this thing, a lot of a-holes who do this thing, and of course douchebags and a-holes make great reality television personalities. So you get all that in Street Outlaws, 2-disc set, 8 episodes. There's that. Finally, I defy anybody to not only buy but care about the complete 6th season of Drop Dead Diva.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, what is the point?
I don't know. No
idea.
idea.
This is the Lifetime show. And it's about this. She's a fat attorney.
I know.
Let's just say she's a fat attorney.
She dies and she comes back.
She's a fat attorney. She comes back.
It's a. Yeah, I
Margaret Cho's in it. That's all I can say.
And then we also have here the complete first season of The Strain in this crazy collectible limited edition collector's package.
Yeah.
That features the head of the master. Wow.
Darn right. So cool.
If you haven't followed this show, Guillermo del Toro is a producer on this thing. It's essentially one of these virus shows. Everything's about the zombies and the viruses now. But there's a virus that's might contaminate the earth. Corey Stoll's the guy who's got to track it down for the Centers for Disease Control, which somehow the boring-ass Centers for Disease Control has become CSI in this thing. And for what it's like cross between CSI and X-Files at this point. It's very strange. This guy's like the evil, creepy alien dude who's the author of this virus. Anyway, I can't say I find the show all that terribly compelling. It's interesting. We'll see how it transpires, how it evolves in the future. A lot of extras on here, audio commentaries for certain episodes, deleted scenes, teasers and trailers and featurettes and all that stuff galore. Certainly a high-quality show, a lot of great production value. Good-looking Blu-ray, nothing to be object to here. It's a beautiful collector set, especially if you want to get the dude's big, creepy, noseless head. Nice thing to put on the shelf to scare children. But I will just revisit the fact that this thing really was just beat up locally over its billboards. When they had those billboards on promoting the premiere with that worm crawling out of an eye, people complained and they freaked out and they had to pull them.
I remember that.
Who complains about a billboard?
But the funny thing is that the billboard for season 2, right, is like a big snake thing coming out of a woman's mouth.
Yeah.
I mean, so the phallic one is okay.
Yeah.
Right, but the one with the eye is too grotesque.
Go figure. I don't understand people. I just don't. I don't understand. And maybe this is just the cynicism of being a film critic and having to see everything, and just at a certain point, you're just so numb to everything that nothing really offends you except stupidity. But I just don't understand where people get the energy to A, be offended by something, and B, actually make an effort to complain about it. I've never understood that. It's like, okay,
people are bored. They go on comment boards on sites all over, and they just They look for things that they look for a reason to call somebody racist, homophobic, anti-Semitic, misogynistic, and so that they can register their outrage on the internet.
I guess
that's how we roll.
I guess that's how we roll now. And real quickly, a lot of UK stuff. A great little original BBC series here, the second season of it from BFS. The Village, Series 2, which is right down that Downton Abbey vein. It is, it just blows me away how many of these series I'm always discovering that I just wasn't aware of. And this is terrific. This is a lot of fun. Beautiful production value, great cast, including Juliet Stevenson, who I always adore. Never get sick of watching her. Created by the wonderful Peter Moffat, who is just a great writer and a great producer. And it deals with essentially the history of this village over roughly the same period of time that we're sort of dealing with in Downton Abbey. And in this case, we're in the 1920s, just like on Downton Abbey, and it's great. It's a fun show. So that is The Village, Series 2. We've also got Murdoch Mysteries, the movies, with the wonderful Cole Meany, who just fantastic. I loved him on Star Trek. I miss Cole Meany on Star Trek. I have to be honest.
Yes, I do.
Don't you?
He's cool.
He was great
because he looked like just a doughy, pasty white guy who looked like like an average dude.
Well, this is a series, a 3-disc series of movies based on the Murdoch Mysteries novels. That's from Acorn. It's a lot of fun. Then we also have also from Acorn, New Worlds, which is stars Jamie Dornan, who is just becoming all kinds of a big deal. Have they signed him up to play any kind of a Marvel hero yet?
He's that handsome.
He's
although you know what, he was not good in 50 Shades of Grey. That guy, he was terrible.
No, I know, but
miscast.
Well, yeah,
not good.
And
he's the anti-smoldering,
and he's going to be in the sequel as well. But which is now from his point of view. Is that the whole angle?
Well, no. The sequel will be 50 Shades Darker. There is a new novel that she just released.
Yeah, whatever.
That tells the story from his point of view.
Yeah, okay. Well, anyway, he's due to be like a Marvel hero. Once this 50 Shades stuff is out of the way and this thing's out of the way, I guarantee you they're going to sign him up to be some kind of superhero. Or maybe replace somebody who they're going to retire, because they got to start retiring these people.
At some point, look, Robert Downey Jr. is 50 years old.
He is now. He's 50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he can't do.
You can have a 60-year-old Iron Man. It's a burly suit. It'll hold up. God. Anyway, so this is actually kind of a cool 17th century intrigue of the court intrigues that deals with the court of King Charles II and the rebels who were fighting against him. Really interesting stuff. Obviously historically not that accurate, but it's got some featurettes and deleted scene stuff, and that's all good. And frankly, I think it's really cool. So it does a nice job of walking the line between historicity and pulpiness. So that's New Worlds on Blu-ray and DVD. I recommend it on the Blu-ray. David Morrissey, always a fun actor, is in the really cool The Driver, which is also pretty top-notch stuff. This also features Ian Hart and, once again, Cole Meany.
He plays the car.
Shows up in everything. Season 2 of A Place to Call Home is a kind of a nice Australian drama, a nice little Australian period thing from the 1950s, which just evokes the fact that the 1950s in Australia were kind of like the 1950s in the U.S. Amazing parallel histories. And then for people who love Lovejoy, it is now out finally in a complete collection. Ian McShane, probably the most wonderful thing he's ever done, where he's not just a wretched, horrible, evil, conniving person. This is it's basically a detective story in the world of antiques, and people love it, especially fans of if you're an Anglophile. This is all 6 series in one big spruced up box set.
So what other jiggery pokery are we talking about? You all right?
I've been having allergies. May I talk about my allergies for a second?
You know what? As
long as I had a hacking attack.
See that gigantic pile of DVDs and Blu-rays?
Yeah.
Do you plan on getting to those today?
We're going to try.
Okay.
That's all classic stuff. We got some good stuff in there. Yeah, so that's... Well, we're getting to that. We'll get to that. No, I just want to say I've been having all kinds of allergy issues lately. Last week, you probably heard it, still hanging around. And at first, I was just sneezing like crazy. Worst allergy attacks I've had. Total spring allergy attacks. Worst that I've had in 20 years. And then it must have just beaten my immune system up so badly, I wound up coming up with like a cold and a cough, and the whole thing was terrible. Just terrible. Okay, let's talk about new movies, Mark.
Let's do it.
That's what we always. That's what we're here for.
Get Hard, Wade. Get Hard's a new movie. It's with Will Ferrell and Kevin Hart. I'm not a big fan of Kevin Hart. I don't get it. Will Ferrell, though, I guess you can't blame him. He's getting a little bit older. He's trying to hitch himself onto the wagon of a younger up-and-coming comic.
A lot of people really had a problem with with this. It's funny how politically correct everyone's gotten.
Oh,
it's
with the gay humor, whatever. It's comedy, folks. We're just relax.
But isn't it amazing how like that stuff that would have just been like throwaway comedy 10 years ago, now everybody's just ooh.
Yeah, we're way too sensitive.
It's just come on.
You know, look, when it comes to artistic expression, stand-up comedy, movies, you should be able to say and do whatever you would like.
Nobody wants to laugh at themselves anymore. Everybody takes everything personally.
It's you know what it is.
Let the air out, man.
It's not that they won't laugh at themselves. Is that they're so I don't even think people are really that sensitive. I just think that they just love being aggrieved. People just love being able to say that, oh my God, that offended me. That offended my sensibilities.
Yeah.
People just love, I don't know what. I don't know what it is.
Anyway. I mean, it's a cute concept. I just think, I don't know. At some point, these films just feel like, ooh, Kevin Hart's kind of on the up and coming. Let's pair him with Will Ferrell. What are they going to do together? I don't know. And it's like somebody cooks up an idea in about 18 seconds, and then they're signed to the movie, and you're like 6 weeks into pre-production, and people realize we forgot to get a script. Doesn't it feel like that?
It happens.
It does.
Or they think, you know what? They'll ad-lib their way out of it.
Yeah. Well, you know what's absolutely amazing, and what did not forget to have a script? Danny Collins. Did you see Danny Collins?
I did not.
Dan Fogelman, after much frustration in his career, wrote and directed this passion project, and I got to tell you, man, this is a great movie. This is a really great movie. This was the first release from Bleecker Street, which is a new distributor, and there are a bunch of these new distributors. And A24. Well, A24 has been around a few years, but there's Bleecker Street is one. Green. No, Green. What's the other one? It's not Green Street. It's
Green Penis.
No, I'll think of it. Anyway, there's a bunch of them, but Bleecker Street really just killed it with this. I'm so glad they picked this up. It's so unbelievably good. One of the best things I've seen Al Pacino do in ages, and apparently that new thing that he's in is great too. I mean, he's just he's like on a late career resurgence, which I didn't see coming.
I want him to do a Marvel superhero movie. I want him to play the scientist, the father.
The new Iron Man. He could be the new Iron Man. He could replace Robert Downey Jr. Wouldn't that be great?
Iron Grandpa.
That would be... imagine Al Pacino as Iron Man. I won't do the impression. It's...
Hooah!
Oh, that voice coming out of Iron Man, the villains would be totally thrown off. How did Al Pacino get inside Iron Man? I don't understand.
How did Michael Corleone get inside Iron Man?
No, here's what this is. This is so good. This is just great writing. I would encourage anybody who wants to see a movie that just where the screenplay just hums and it doesn't feel overly constructed. It's not overwritten. It's not overly cute. You don't feel all these mechanical beats and reversals and like somebody just tacked a beat sheet and cards up on a board. Where it just feels organic. Like this is just a totally great story, character driven. Just like a breeze, and it just pulls your heartstrings. It's so funny, it's so touching, it's so real. Can't believe it. Loosely based on a factual incident and then fictionalized around it. Al Pacino basically plays a guy who, as a young man, was he was a huge pop star, and now he's an old dude. He's basically Neil Diamond, and he's all he does is sing all of his stupid old tunes to old ladies. And he's a depressed old has-been with a 20-something wife that he really doesn't care much about, and he's got a pile of money, but he's just self-destructive. He's just coasting, and he feels like he never really he betrayed his talents, and that's when his manager, played by Christopher Plummer, his longtime manager, reveals to him that John Lennon once wrote him a letter and basically said, you're the man, don't give up, and it would have changed his life if he had seen that letter when it was written. But he didn't get it now until he's old. So now he's going to try to change his life. He's going to try to be the guy. He's going to do it. He's going to redeem himself. And I won't tell you where it goes from there, but Annette Bening shows up in this thing. Bobby Cannavale, amazing, phenomenal. Jennifer Garner, great little part. Where it goes from there is so wonderful, so touching, so heartwarming. This is my pick of the week. Danny Collins on Blu-ray and DVD. You got to see it. I love this movie. It's probably going to be a top 10 film for me. Not a lot by way of bonuses, but just featurette stuff. But it's fantastic. It's a great movie. Cannot get enough of this thing. It's absolutely wonderful. Mark, did you see Kumiko?
Who?
Kumiko, Treasure Hunter. Did
No.
you see this? You didn't see this?
No.
Really?
Why would I see that?
Because it's got a whole Fargo tie-in. This is based on an actual event. There was actually a Japanese woman who came to, and I don't think she went to Fargo, but she wound up going to Michigan or Wisconsin, somewhere close, and she died, and they found her frozen in the snow. And there was an urban legend that grew up, that emerged about this woman, that she had watched Fargo, and it wasn't true, of course, but that she'd watched Fargo and thought it was real and went looking for the money that was buried in Fargo. She thought the movie was like a treasure map. So essentially, director David Zellner, who has made a bunch of movies with his brother Nathan, they've been making little low-budget movies for years. These things have they've gotten no traction. But they threw it all at this movie, which is a really competent movie about that sort of fictionalizes this event. This woman who watches Fargo and thinks that she's got to go get the treasure, and she goes and she, becomes this weird odyssey through the American landscape looking for the treasure from the movie Fargo. And really interesting, incredibly well made. It was kind of a big deal at Sundance, and I totally recommend this to people. I think it's just a cool, weird, quirky, little unusual film, and a great way for these guys to break out. David Zellner and Nathan Zellner, and David Zellner, the director, is actually in the film. He plays a cop in the film, so nice little cameo there. I recommend it.
Wait, what I don't recommend is The Gunman. Pierre Morel, the director who reinvigorated Liam Neeson's career, which we talked about last week, tries to do the same thing for Sean Penn, and does not work at all. This thing is just a bit of a mess. I think part of it, too, is that, look, I love Sean Penn as much as the next guy, but he is just... At least Liam Neeson looked like a dad. When he goes and saves his daughter, you believe it, you love it. Sean Penn is just a humorless... dead cold fish in this kind of movie. This thing's uninspired. Yes.
I enjoy the action moments in the film, but it really is just all contrived to hell. I mean, Sean Penn makes it credible. He makes it a little believable, but man, it's all so contrived. And then the bullfighting stuff. It's I saw this with Tim, and it was poor Tim, who knows that they haven't actually had bullfighting in Barcelona for years. He just couldn't get over that. He's like, they don't bullfight in Barcelona anymore. What are they doing? This is wrong. And for the last half hour of the movie, he just could not get over that. He was so stuck on that.
Yeah, this thing is just kind of a misfire. So I'm sure Sean Penn was hoping that some of that Taken magic would rub off on him.
No.
And it is not. It has not. Sorry. Wah, wah.
Not really. We got a thing here called Alton and Kenya's Outrageous Wedding. It may take a miracle to pull off their big day. Worst tagline ever. What's wrong with them? This is one of those straight-to-video things that is targeted primarily at home for inner city black home family audiences, family viewing, trying to sort of piggyback and ride the coattails of Tyler Perry and excuse me, and my allergies and my cough. The problem here is Tyler Perry pioneered these audiences, and everybody who thinks that they can just sort of waltz in and make a movie that appeals to the same people for the same reasons, they're kind of missing the boat. They're missing the point. They're missing the fact that he really, really laid the groundwork for a long time. But anyway, look, it's a movie about the craziness that goes on around a wedding. We've seen it with black families, white families, many times. It is what it is. There's been worse, but there it is. It's from Level 33. Alton and Kenya's Outrageous Wedding.
Wait, I'm a big fan of Noah Baumbach. I admit it.
Yep.
Squid and the Whale
Yeah.
was pretty much my life story at the time. Now we have While We're Young. This one, Ben Stiller and Naomi Watts play a married couple. They're both in their 40s. And they meet this freewheeling 20-something couple played by Adam Driver and Amanda
Seyfried.
Seyfried. Is that what it is? I can never get that
Seyfried.
right. So, like a lot of Baumbach films, it is, at least attempts to be, very honest about modern relationships and modern life. It's got some poignant stuff in it. I'm watching the movie wondering what take Baumbach is going for. Is he going to make it a harangue against 20-somethings who just are rudderless and talk on their phone all the time? Or is he going to make it a harangue against 40-somethings who are starting to check out of pop culture and just sort of go into their little cocoon of getting older and dying? And in a way, he sort of does it in the middle. I think that Baumbach definitely has issues with the 20-something generation in terms of their manipulativeness and their narcissism.
Should I watch this? Because you know how I feel about Baumbach. I'm not on the bandwagon. But
if you're not on the bandwagon, this is not going to help you.
It's not.
This will not put you on the bandwagon.
Okay.
But here's the thing. Since you're a crusty, miserable old man, you might like some of the knuckle slapping that happens, rapping that happens in this film because the Driver and Seyfried characters, they're these young kids and they live their little bohemian life and they're so proud of it and they just let it all hang out. And Baumbach kind of comes down on that a little bit. As if these guys have to straighten themselves out just a little bit. They can be freewheeling, but you got to take life a little bit seriously. So I think you might kind of enjoy that. So I'd go for it. It's a good film.
All right.
Now, Clive Owen and Morgan Freeman star in Last Nights. Now, Last Nights...
Oh, this is a dreadful movie.
What?
It's really bad.
Oh.
No, it is. It's just it's like nouveau medievalism, and nobody ever gets these things right. It's unfortunate to see them do it, especially Morgan Freeman doing this. He's just taking paychecks these days.
Well, you know what? I gotta say, I feel bad for Clive Owen. I mean, Clive Owen had a bit there where he was like the man. There was a moment.
Yeah.
But now he can't really extend that moment. That moment is unextendable.
He's hard to cast, though. It all started.
He's not a romantic leading man. He's not really an action guy.
No, Croupier sort of put him on the map, and his window was when he was in theory like in the runoff against Daniel Craig to be the new Bond. And had he been the new Bond, it would be a whole different story, But he didn't get it, so Daniel Craig got it, and we are where we are. The Frontier is filmed by Matthew Rabinowitz, which is actually a pretty good film. This is from Virgil Films. A good little indie about a guy who's a retired professor and activist trying to get in touch with his son, who he hasn't seen forever. And it's essentially about the evolution of that relationship, that estranged relationship, and fill in the blanks, and how they come back together again. We've seen this thing before, but never quite this way. There's a certain kind of I don't want to say lack of romanticism about it, but it doesn't. It's sort of it. Here's the thing. What makes this interesting is what they don't do. I'm glad that they don't do a lot of the more sentimental stuff, and that it just, in some sense, it feels a little more real. So I appreciated that. That was a little bit of a big deal at South by Southwest. And then another cool little indie, Spike Island from Level 33 as well. Spike Island stars Emilia Clarke, who a lot of people know from Game of Thrones,
and the new Terminator film.
And she's lovely, and it's about a band that wants to sort of give a mixtape, an audition tape to their idol, which is the Stone Roses, and it's their odyssey and all that transpires on the journey there. I'm not going to compare it to to Almost Famous, but there are moments where it felt a little bit Almost Famous-y. So, and the music's good, and it's well put together. So that's another successful little indie. And Mark, this is the big deal of the week.
The big deal of the week? What is it?
Well, we got a couple, documentary-wise. I Am Evel Knievel on Blu-ray. People do not understand Evel Knievel today. They just don't.
He's all Evel Knievel. I mean, what do you say? Is he the jackass of his time?
He not even. I mean, we don't have daredevils anymore.
No,
we just don't. I mean, that was a big deal. I remember when he was doing all that stuff, and I was in school, and he was going to
jump Snake Mountain,
Snake River. He was going to jump Snake River with that rocket thing, and we were just like, "Are you kidding me?" Like, it's one thing with a car and a motorcycle and all that.
It was an event. When he had a new stunt, it was an event.
It was a big deal. We don't have people who do that anymore. Nobody does that. It's just it was a moment in time. It was just a different zeitgeist. Anyway, this documentary totally captures that. It takes me back, and it puts you right in that period of time. This was made for Spike on television, and does a great job of it. It totally resurrects that period in time, which of course is directly tied to that infamous episode of Happy Days that gave us the term jumping the shark, which people use today without even knowing where it comes from. It's crazy. But in any case, here's the other big deal, Mark. People have been wanting this forever. We've gotten emails about this. It is finally here on Blu-ray. Penelope Spheris, the complete collection of
The Decline of Western Civilization.
There it is. It's right there. We're all in now.
That's a nice looking set.
It's a great set, man. I did not fully appreciate the first film when it was released. I just kind of thought, I mean, Spheris, I knew a bit about her, obviously, because I went to UCLA Film School. She was a UCLA alum, and, all the teachers there always like to sort of drop the names of famous alums that came out just a few years earlier. And she made the first Decline of Western Civilization in 1981, right around the time that she'd graduated. I was there about a decade later, so it was close enough that she's still kind of a big name there. And I remember thinking, well, didn't impress me quite so much. Part 2, the Metal Years, didn't really succeed very well, and a lot of people just completely missed Part 3, which came out in 1998. But revisiting these things, this is quite a saga. I mean, it really is. In hindsight, I have a lot more appreciation for this than I ever did.
Oh, it's great. My only thing with the movies, although they are great, is that it wasn't my favorite music. Like Black Flag, Circle Jerks. I mean, X is cool, but the Germs, Alice Bag Band, those were not my favorite bands growing up. It was like obnoxious music to me at the time.
Yeah.
Now I'm older. I have a more sophisticated palette. I appreciate it more.
At the time, you're in the middle of it, and you're like, I hate this music. I don't like these people. It's the now. After that, I look at it. There's some nostalgia, and I begin to understand the cultural context a little better. And they're great films. They're great films, and I'd love for her to do this again, this kind of stuff again, rather than all that junk that she was doing, all those little rascals or whatever that was that she was directing for the studios. Brand new scans of all of these films in 2K. They're gorgeous, fantastic, never look better. Audio commentary by Penelope Spheris, which is great. Also an additional audio commentary by Dave Grohl, which is also great, and interviews and extra footage and trailers and just gobs and gobs and gobs of stuff that makes this essential, whether you like the music or not. It's really, really good. All right. Mark, let's get into this. Let's wrap the show out with this giant pile of classic movies.
Okay, if you say wrap the show out with that giant pile, you're pretty much saying let's start the show over again. That's a giant pile.
You know what? It's a giant pile, but some of this stuff can go pretty quickly. So hang on.
I should time you.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna hold on. Why don't? Let's do this. I'm gonna burn through. Let's do the Kino and the Criterion stuff first. I'll just kill the Kino stuff because this is all catalog stuff. This is the ongoing Kino stuff from their Studio Classics line, which is all licensed from 20th Century Fox and MGM, which means in the case of MGM, oftentimes a lot of it is Orion and UA stuff. This one is Harry in Your Pocket. A James Coburn film with Michael Cera and Trish Vanderveer and Walter Pidgeon that is kind of not that great. This is sort of cheesy early 70s. It's, intrigue, con man stuff. James Coburn plays pickpocket. It dates very poorly, not well shot. It's got that really ugly 70s look to it. Bank Shot with George C. Scott is another film from the same era that I was once fond of, and coming back to it, it dates really poorly as well. The only thing that's nice about this is Bob Balaban. I just always love seeing Bob Balaban, especially in stuff in the 70s. But, as a crime film, Bank Shot, not as good now, doesn't date well. Needful Things with Ed Harris, Max von Sydow, and Bonnie Bedelia from 1993 was, it was, I don't know. It didn't really catch fire at the time. Okay film directed by Fraser Heston, Charlton Heston's son, who has done, a number of really amateurish things. I don't want to say it's nepotism, but it kind of is. He has a commentary here for those who care. One of the weaker adaptations of Stephen King novels from a time when they were just really, really running dry. And let's see, some good Michel Legrand music in Cops and Robbers with Cliff Gorman and Joseph Bologna. That's about all that's really good in this. This is another early 70s film that doesn't date too well. And then lastly here, this is the one that I kind of recommend. In the coming weeks, we are going to be talking about the documentary about the disastrously failed Marlon Brando Island of Dr. Moreau, which I have some interesting anecdotes about. But for my money, one of the more interesting, though not necessarily good, adaptations of the Island of Dr. Moreau is from 1977, which is the one with Burt Lancaster and Michael York. I saw this at the time. It had the misfortune of coming out the same year as Star Wars, so nobody really paid attention to it. But you know what? It's not bad. It's not good, but it's not bad. It's got some interesting angles to it. Produced by Sam Arkoff, who I've had the pleasure of meeting and being in his house and scaring him because I got too close to the Picasso vase. But as a movie that kind of stitches the 70s together with the 80s, it has some kitschy insights. So one of the last interesting films produced by Samuel Arkoff. And that's it for our Kino Studio Classic line today.
We got some Criterion goodness for you. Let's start with 5 Easy Pieces, Wade. Now, where do you want your chicken salad, Wade?
Gosh, it's a good movie.
There's a movie
that dates really well.
Your chicken salad.
Yeah.
You don't know what we mean. Check out 5 Easy Pieces.
Yeah.
Jack Nicholson nominated for an Oscar for this thing. This is from what year is this? It's from 1970. Jack Nicholson, he had already done Easy Rider. Now here, directed by Bob Rafelson. He plays this oil rigger who goes to visit his dying father with his pregnant girlfriend tagging along. The pregnant girlfriend, played by Karen Black, who was also nominated for an Oscar. This is an interesting film. It's very much of its time, although, as Wade says, the characters do hold up. The story does hold up, but it's very much a Vietnam era kind of story of rootless kids and giving up their, because in the film Nicholson is like, his character is a piano prodigy.
Yeah.
But he gives it all up to work on an oil rig.
Yep.
And some rootless existence. So it's very much about that time, that generation, giving up the wealth of the upper middle class life and going off and discovering themselves, whatnot, and so forth. So that's 5 Easy Pieces. It's a great film. It totally holds up. Once again, Criterion, they slam dunk the extras. Audio commentary by Bob Rafelson. A couple documentaries. Good stuff. Definitely a couple documentaries, audio excerpts from a AFI interview with Rafelson, and an essay by Ken Jones that I always enjoy reading. Next, we have Valerie and Her Week of Wonders. I was not familiar with this film when I saw this come onto my desk, but it's pretty interesting. It's from 1970. It's a short film. It's only 70 minutes long. It's from Czechoslovakia, or the former Czechoslovakia. And it's about this it's sort of this like psychosexual story about this woman who interacts with vampires and witches and in this daydream that she lives in. It's kind of a weird, non-linear kind of a fairy tale. So it's a cool little movie, a funky little movie. It's got a lot of great imagery in it. It's got a really cool score. Somehow Criterion found a whole bunch of extras for this thing, including a couple early shorts from the director of the film. This is all in the late 50s, early 60s. some new interviews with a film scholar and some of the actors from 2006. And it's good stuff. Valerie and her Week of Wonders, definitely it's a bit adventurous, but if you're into that stuff, I think it'll be rewarding for you. Also, we have, ladies and gentlemen, 3 films featuring André, Gregory, and Wallace Shawn. This is finally on Blu-ray. We have My Dinner with André, Vanya on 42nd Street, and A Master Builder. Most famous film here is going to be My Dinner with André. This was notable because the movie is essentially 2 people eating dinner.
I so didn't really care for that film at the time. I love Louis Malle. I've grown to appreciate My Dinner with André. Vanya on 42nd Street, it just fills my mind with murder. I don't particularly care for Uncle Vanya. I can tolerate it, but in this case, a bunch of people sitting around, basically just doing a rehearsal with handheld camera, capturing them doing that rehearsal on a completely undecorated stage, and André Gregory sitting by really pretentiously, just watching them like a total twit in a chair. I just want to slap someone. That I know people love it, but I just don't get that film at all.
Well, Master Builder and Uncle Vanya, you know what they remind me of? They remind me of Lars von Trier's, the movies where he Dogtown, or Dogville.
Dogville, thank you.
Reminds me of that.
Yeah.
You know, so if you've seen Dogville and you like that, you might actually like,
I guess,
Vanya and A Master Builder.
I respect much of what Louis Malle does here, but man, André is just so pretentious. He just represents that thing that drives you crazy. It's just, anyway. A couple other criterions here that are hugely awesome. The first one is The Bridge, which is an Oscar-nominated German film from 1959. Really big deal at the time. If you haven't seen this, it's sort of disappeared, and I'm sort of amazed that Criterion and Janus Films were able to resurrect this thing, because it's just it's completely fallen off the radar. It's 1:3.7 aspect ratio. It's a very unusual film, and especially when to put on Blu-ray. But wow, really, really impressive stuff. Volker Schlondorf, who did not direct it, by the way, Bernard Wicki directed it, but Volker Schlondorf is interviewed about the film's impact at the time, because it's sort of a precursor to the new German cinema, of which he and Fassbender and Herzog were all, and Wim Wenders, they were sort of the ones who carried that torch. And this is like a precursor to it. It's very interesting what he has to say about it. There's also a 1989 interview with Bernard Wicki, and excerpts from a 2007 documentary, not the whole documentary. Honestly, the film itself is really, really interesting. A powerful post-war, anti-war statement film about these teenage boys who essentially everything that precedes them becoming soldiers, and it's just really interesting. It's one of the most interesting films about the soldier psychology that I think has ever been made. And then lastly, on the Criterion front, is The Fisher King, which, not my favorite Terry Gilliam film, but certainly one that a lot of people are fond of. This is one of the films, everyone involved in this. It's just a powerhouse film. Robin Williams and Jeff Bridges both just completely kill it. Great score by George Fenton. Richard LeGravenese just put himself completely on the map with this very original script. And then 2 power producers in Linda Obst and Deborah Hill. This is one of the last kind of real, interesting producer-driven, auteur-directed, all-around, quality Oscar packages that a major studio financed and distributed. And it's 1991, man. That was 24 years ago, and it blows my mind that was 24 years ago. But crazy. Anyway, so that's The Fisher King. And, TriStar is kind of resurrected now as well. So this is the Terry Gilliam-approved Fisher King on Blu-ray from Criterion.
I feel bad for the good folks over at Paramount, because they thought to themselves, or Warner Brothers actually, Warner Home Video, because they thought to themselves,
Warner's releasing it, but
yeah, it's Paramount film. But they thought to themselves, Cameron Crowe's got a new film coming out. It's called Aloha. It's going to be a big hit. Why don't we piggyback on that by releasing Vanilla Sky on Blu-ray?
With its alternate ending. Which isn't very good either.
Now, so what we have is a new Cameron Crowe film, which was a piece of S that everybody hated. So really, the Vanilla Sky Blu-ray gets no boost from that. In fact, it probably got dinged because Cameron Crowe's reputation at this point is really in the dumps.
Man, it's just so
that guy
sad.
can just not put it together. And by the way, I think that Vanilla Sky is just a confused mess. I just had no.
The original
was great.
Spanish
Open Your
film,
Eyes.
Open Your Eyes, is wonderful, and Penelope Cruz is great in it. It's the film that sort of also put her on the map, other than Belle Epoque. But I don't know what they were thinking. It shouldn't have been remade. He was the wrong director, and it just doesn't work.
It does not work. Good cast though. I mean, look, can't beat Tom Cruise. I love Tom Cruise. I defend Tom Cruise, and Kurt Russell's in this. Penelope Cruz is in this. And Cameron Diaz, but it's just a big mess. This was really poorly received. It was, he's become like the M. Night Shyamalan it's like he just keeps getting strike after strike after strike, and yet somehow keeps making movies.
And I have a theory about that too, which kind of, it gets into personal matters. But I have a theory too that things just after the divorce, things just really went south. It corresponds to the time that the twins were born. And then they got divorced, and I think just something about having to be domestic all of a sudden, fatherhood and all that. I think he just cracked.
Wait, no.
What?
Because we have to bookend the show with the James Horner score. So make sure that the last one you talk about is the movie with the James Horner score.
Very good. We'll do that. Really quickly, a couple of really cool Blu-rays. Film Movement has never released a Blu-ray before, but they've released a Blu-ray. Film Movement, we love the people at Film Movement. It's a great movie of the month club kind of thing, and they now have a line on Film Movement Classics, and they have released Peter Greenaway's The Pillow Book with Vivian Wu and Ewan McGregor. Very sexually explicit, very controversial at the time. Peter Greenaway is an acquired taste. You just either you love him or you hate him.
Where is the cook, the thief, the wife,
Everyone
the
wants
lover?
to know.
Where is it?
In the meantime, you got to settle for The Pillow Book, and it is not one of my favorite films. But I will say this: Peter Greenaway's films look good. They've always been well shot, and this is one hell of a gorgeous-looking Blu-ray. Film Movement definitely makes their foray into the world of Blu-rays with a bang. They do a beautiful job. I cannot wait for some of their other stuff to, especially in this classics line, to start making it to Blu-ray. This is just absolutely first-rate all around. Also, great Peter Greenaway commentary and an essay in here. Greenaway is an interesting commentary. I'll just tell you that. When you listen to it, you'll understand. And then before we get to the last thing, Flicker Alley, for fans of 3D, has released 3D Rarities and a collection of 22 restored, very rare 3D films, which come from the 3D Film Archive. And this actually, you may not realize this is the 100th anniversary of 3D films. Like 3D was introduced about 100 years ago. So in honor of that, you just have all of these really interesting kind of peculiarities and rarities. And there's all kinds of different stuff going on here. I mean, it's all the way back to 1915. It just takes you through the entire history of 3D in the most fascinating way. You obviously need to have a 3D television and a 3D capable Blu-ray player. You need all of that stuff and the 3D glasses, but you don't have to have all that. You can watch the stuff in 2D if it gives you a headache like it usually does me. I don't care for 3D, but as an archival, an artifactual, I guess is the better word, an artifactual release, this is essential. It gives you, it really lets you see the history and the evolution of 3D through these novelty films, and I didn't know that any of this stuff really existed. So for me, it was just House of Wax, and that was it. But nope, not at all. And it's gorgeous, wonderful restoration here. Flicker Alley kills it. It is a beautiful Blu-ray, first rate through and through.
All right, we're going to wrap it out with a film I really liked as a kid called Wolfen. This is
Albert. Mentioned this last week.
Yes, this is Albert Finney and directed by Michael Wadley, who
a Warner Archive Blu-ray.
Yes,
another one of their rare releases.
So Michael Wadley, he directs Woodstock, the Woodstock documentary, and then Wolfen. Who knew? Anyway, Albert Finney plays a New York City detective. There's a bunch of killings going on in the city. Turns out that they're being done by wolves, but they're not just any wolves. Now, if this movie was made today, they'd be like supernatural, crazy wolves of like the Twilight series. Turns out that these wolves are, I won't give it away, but they are a little of a higher evolutionary position than humans. They exist, they're like spirit wolves. They interact with the Native American Indians who still occupy parts of New York, and they protect their territory from, let's say, us, because as Edward James Olmos says in the movie, to them, you are the savage. I remember that. That's what he said in the movie.
It's cool.
It is cool. Music by James Horner. Also, this is features Gregory Hines. If you are a fan of 80s films like I am, you know Gregory Hines. You like Gregory Hines. He was very cool. He died way too young. Anyway, Wolfen is one of my favorite kind of little horror films of my childhood. I would definitely check that out.
Kind of a big wolf moment, you know. There was Wolfen and American Werewolf in London, and The Howling. It was like a wolf moment.
Well, just like we were having a vampire moment and a zombie moment.
Yeah, but it was like it was much more serious. It was all, you know, Dick Baker and Greg Bottine and all that makeup effect stuff, and everybody. It was a cool moment. Cool moment in time. All right, that's it. We will see you guys next week.